State of the Nation Business Breakfast, which is how the State of the Nation started. So if you're a company out there that wants to get information, or even individual that wants to get information, that wants to hear some of our best guests, we've got our first business breakfast of the year lined up for the 27th of February at the Sandton Convention Centre, where we'll have Prince Mashele and Davy Root, two of our most popular contributors, one talking largely about the political situation in South Africa and what to look forward to, and then Davy Root, the renowned economist, who will be looking at the South African economy and what that holds. More information will be in the description below, but come and join us, have a good breakfast, bring some of your clients, and get some insights. Welcome to the State of the Nation Political Insider feature. And we had our first episode last week, and it turned out to be very, very interesting. And this is definitely going to become a program worth watching, because we're lucky enough to get a person on the inside, and they can tell us the news before it hits the newspapers, and it can help you understand what's going on in our crazy political landscape called South Africa. So joining me today is our political insider, Kuhle Nkamani. Kuhle, welcome back.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm good. And so we already created a little bit of interest last week, and you certainly have some interesting things to share with us today.
True, Mike. Firstly, just want to say to our fans out there,
yes,
I know my shirt is red or maroon.
Yes.
Please, guys, I've not joined the EFF.
Oh dear. Oh God. I've got a red tie. Don't read anything into anything. But the big news of the week, by far dominated, was the signing of the Expropriation Act. Tell us about that.
Mike. Oh dear. Sometimes I ask myself, Mike, do the ANC really live in South Africa? Or are we the only ones here? I mean, because I swear sometimes it feels like they're playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Yeah.
Mike, you ask yourself, land expropriation is not the only way of dealing with land reform. It isn't. Firstly, people need to understand that. There are many ways of dealing with land reform outside of land expropriation. Now, Mike, here's the big issue for me. I see this bill, number one, hurting investors. Because who wants to come and invest in a hotel, build up something in some remote area with the risk of your land being taken away? And yes, let's be honest, Mike. They say that, no, look, it's not really no compensation. It's not, they're trying to really lie about this thing. But let's be honest, it's a prejudicial decision. So these decisions will be taken to the court. They will be made in court. Some decisions about land that is not being used. I mean, Mike, let me be honest. If I've got land somewhere in Mpumalanga that I acquired from my grandfather and has not been touched, does that give the state a right to take that land because I'm not using it? No, Mike, no. Firstly, Mike, we need to be honest. Land reform is not a brand new topic in South Africa. In 1994, we had a willing buyer, willing seller. How did that work out? We only reached 8% by the time it got scrapped in 2013. The target was 30% land redistribution. Now, Mike, how did this fail? Black farmers who actually got this land actually were not able to farm on the land because they did not have the necessary skills. So the issue is, Mike, we are giving away everything. Yeah, freebies, you take, but we're not upskilling people to actually know how to use the land. Now, that's something important, is people need to be equipped with the correct skills to know how to use the land. So for me, land reform, yes, we can, that's important. But expropriation, no, it's not the way. This is another ANC gimmick. And let's be honest, Mike, all these acts, because they are now acts, they're no longer bills now that they've been passed, are just to frustrate the DA. I mean, it's from Bella Act to NHI to this. I mean, why weren't these done when they had a majority in the last term? It's done just to frustrate all GNU partners.
It's as well as for the ANC to remain looking sort of relevant and progressive, as the term is used in South Africa. isn't it?
True. I mean, Mike, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, Mike.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the ANC has got a tendency of trying to make something look new or like they're changing things while actually it's still the same old, let's be honest, shit, So, firstly, people should not be played by this. I mean, you look at 2014, from 2014, land redistribution started, right? So we left the willing buyer, willing seller model from 2014. How much was actually achieved in that period? Only 10% of commercial farmland was turned over to black farmers, now black subsistence farmers. Now, Mike, it's been 30 years. ANC has failed to reach 30% in 30 years. What the hell do people think is going to change with expropriation? Mike, firstly, people must understand expropriation is taking land into states' hands. It's not giving it to you as in here's your title deed, go and do something. It's taking land into states' hands. And let me be honest, Mike. Today it starts with arable land and land that has not been used. Tomorrow it's malls and shopping centers. God knows what next. Next week it's your house, and then you end up owning nothing. So people, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. There are many ways of achieving land reform. You look at countries that failed at it. Look at Venezuela with Hugo Chavez. I mean, that country is now in famine, struggling to actually feed the population. Look at Zimbabwe.
They call it the Maduro diet. Everybody in Venezuela, this is a fact. Every Venezuelan lost 10 kilos. It's an interesting fact.
So exactly. You look at Zim, same story. But there are successes of land reform, which we can take from Brazil. We can take from South Korea. South Korea is interesting on a last point. South Korea actually redistributed land to those that actually had resources to use the land and understood how to use it. So there is some success stories.
On the land, is just in a short passing shot, there's a thing that I'm quite a bugbear about. The last land survey that was done in South Africa was done in 2017. In quite a dynamic market, those 7 years matter. They don't want to update the data because I think the data has changed dramatically. South Africa has definitely seen a movement in land ownership, but Stats SA, another nice captured organization, doesn't want to do a new land audit because they want to work off the old numbers because it just sounds sexier, doesn't it?
No, true, Mike. And Mike, just before leaving this, it's not really just even about land, but about everything in society. Now, I'm going to just leave this for whoever's watching to see this. Mike, during the 1970s and 80s in the Transkei, there was something called the Xhosa Development Cooperation, which later changed to the TDC, Transkei Development Cooperation. Now, that thing is very important, Mike. Something very important about that. We need to, and I'm going to speak about this from a black person's point of view. Black people need to start up their own cooperations that will actually empower them. Mike, if 20 million black people, now my maths might not be favoring me right now, might be mistaken, but if 20 million black people who are working, by the way, or receive some form of income even through grants, can donate 10 million rand a month, that gets to about 26 billion rand a year. And if you can take that money and use it to build schools, use it to actually improve, failing infrastructure in township schools and all sorts, and not expect handouts and buy businesses and take black skilled people and put them in those businesses, you could really change the dynamics. I mean, you look at AfriForum, you look at the Jewish community, how they've done things as a community. You look even at Singapore, that's how they were able to take the country from a third world to first world. So, handouts will never work.
Yeah. That's even in South Africa, many of the churches that built many schools as church schools, and those are today, many of our private schools are the remnants of that. Let's look at the Cabinet Lekgotla. Another Cabinet Lekgotla coming, and that's going to be an interesting one. Tell us about, do you think any decisions are ever made at a Cabinet Lekgotla?
Mike, this is going to be a quick talk, Mike. No decisions are made. Mike, I'm going to be honest. At times, I feel like they just sit there with a cigarette and look outside the window. I mean, Mike, one thing that frustrates me about the ANC is how they take forever to do nothing. It's one of the most amazing things in this world, And let's be honest, Mike. Cabinet Lekgotla's ANC needs to start having this idea. They are no longer in charge. It's a GNU. You need to consult with your partners. This same fallacy of us will have a Cabinet Lekgotla, next week we'll announce this is what we're doing, is gone, Mike. It's not going to happen again. Now, this is the time of actually consulting with your partners that what are we going to do? ANC fails at consulting. ANC achieves at actually bullying their mandates into power. I mean, we've seen it in Tshwane, where the deputy mayor clearly controls Nasipi. I mean, it's known. If you do go to Tshwane House, everyone will tell you the deputy mayor just controls, So, ANC must forget their bullying tendencies. And I love the fact that the DA held a press conference this past weekend, and stated that they wouldn't allow the ANC to bully them into things that they never agreed to. I think that's good, Mike, because we should not allow power, especially in the GNU, because ANC thought that the power would drunken these parties, that they would just shut up and sit somewhere in the corner and sit somewhere in the naughty corner and just, behave and mark still, and that's not happening. So, Cabinet Lekgotla, we've not heard anything yet, about what's coming out. But from what I know is there's nothing really major. What is major is this reconfiguration when it comes to the ANC.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But now, this Cabinet Lekgotla, 75 people going to be in that room, right? Because that's how many ministers and deputy ministers we have. There's not going to be a chance for anybody to really say anything. And then on the subject of the GNU, I do understand the point that what they're doing is to frustrate the DA, but there are other partners who seem to be silent and letting the DA catch all the flack. Look, it would be nice if some of the other parties, especially people like Patriotic Alliance, Good, etc., would open their mouths. They're also part of the GNU.
Mike, let's just be honest. Other parties that are part of the GNU are just singing for their supper. I mean, what is the difference if Good is not there or PA is not there? I mean, we still do have a GNU. We really don't need them to have a GNU. So they're just singing for their supper. Hence, they only have one ministry, because it's supporting the leader, right? So, Mike, you spoke of the 75 members of cabinet, Mike. That is nearly a quarter of parliament. I don't know if people realize this. I mean, that if you make it to parliament, you've got a 25% chance of becoming a minister. How great is that, Mike? I mean, so, but on a serious note, the rest of the parties that are there are not really being affected. You look at Patricia de Lille. She's in tourism, if I'm not mistaken. Nothing much is happening there. Everything is actually happening to the DA. And why is this happening? I'm going to tell you something, Mike. As a politician, this is made to make the DA seem weak, because the DA is going to seem like they're pushing ANC policies. But here's the trick, Mike. Dean McPherson said it in a tweet, this last week, is he's actually the one that actually has to preside over this, So don't forget that there's still going to be meetings that have to go on about how we process, this whole land, all sorts. And what's his name again? Dean McPherson. Dean McPherson can take forever to eventually decide on how to preside. And that can be a delayed tactic that I hope, if he is watching, I hope that he does use. Start using delay tactics, because the ANC will sign the bills to frustrate you. But as ministers, you have the opportunity to use delaying tactics to actually implement these things. So I hope they are watching.
Now, we want to talk about some of the parties, and it ties into what we've already discussed to a degree. We talk about the ANC trying to make the DA look weak. One of the things is that it has kind of made the ANC look a little bit stronger. We've seen that in by-elections. But the thing that's making the ANC look like an alternative, despite their bad management, has been the disarray, especially in the MK party. Now, in the past week, we talk about new structures, we talk about missing millions, internal issues. Tell me what the what in heaven's name is going on with the MK
Mike,
party? The women in Mpumalanga won't leave after she won't give them the money back. It's the craziest thing. And they want to put Busi Mkhwebane there. Busisiwe Mkhwebane.
It's just crazy, Mike. It's crazy. And before just Busisiwe Mkhwebane, Mike, for those that don't know, Busisiwe Mkhwebane is one of the most problematic people on earth to deal with, on record. You know, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, before she actually got into active politics, you know, she was at Home Affairs, National Home Affairs. She had such a big problem with the ex-DG of that time that the DG actually posted her to China because he was so frustrated of working with this lady. She came back. She served, you know, that term there as a public protector. I mean, we saw, some of the writing was just terrible. You could not even think it was a lawyer that was writing some of those things. And then she went, Julius adopted her. Didn't know that he was actually adopting a wolf in sheep's clothing. But, Mike, what was he expecting? Anyone close to Zuma is like a spy anyway, because the man was a spy. So she's now in Mpumalanga. People are not happy with her because, yet again, they feel like it's a case of people being parachuted out of nowhere. It's happening, Mike. MK members, you know, I'll be honest, Mike. MK members for me are like pawns on a chessboard. You know, really, they just move once. That's the growth that you'll get. But the real guys that are going to move are the guys at the back, you know. So, MK is a crazy story. We don't even know about these missing millions. I mean, there's a story that it's 11 million. There's one that it's 20-something million. Then there's 40-something million. Mike, it's just crazy, Mike. It's crazy. And, let's be honest. You know, someone made a joke with me this past week. They asked me, what business has Jacob Zuma ever started, you know? And a friend of mine responded and said, MKP Trading, PTY Ltd, and Nkandla Steel Waters, you know. So, it's a party that is filled with individuals that are a bunch of tinderpreneurs. Let's be honest, Mike. They're not businessmen. I know some claim to be businessmen. They're not businessmen. There's a difference between a business that operates somewhere and actually has clients and one that just runs on tenders, right? So these guys, mind you remind me of a story. MK is planning on having a big takeover in KZN, and mark my words, the plan is for it to happen in March, just around the topic of MK.
Right.
It's there's a plan for it to happen in March. I've been reliably informed that it's going to happen March. I think it's going to be good because perhaps the people of KZN can finally leave character politics and really understand and feel service delivery, you know.
Delivered by the MK party.
Yeah, I don't know what shit show that will be, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, so March we got something to look at. But they're not the only party in the news. Bantu Holomisa, UDM.
Bantu. They call him the dictator of the north. I mean, the dictator of the Transkei and Soskai. Yeah. Bantu Holomisa is, from what I'm hearing, is starting to take a step back from politics. He's planning on resigning, which I think is something huge for the UDM. And also huge from, I think, an Eastern Cape perspective when it comes to politics of how does UDM actually fare without Bantu Holomisa? I mean, for me, it feels like you're pulling out a plug from a patient who has been in a coma for 10 years in hospital, you know, just... Yeah. I mean, so it's going to be interesting. But he's going to hand over the reins to Ngabazile Kwankwa, from what I'm hearing. Ngabazile is a smart guy. Went to UCT, you know, hustle story long. Smart guy. He's a likable person amongst Xhosa-speaking people in the Eastern Cape. It's going to be interesting if he'll be able to take the party forward. Now, that's the question. But also another question is, does UDM finally identify itself in terms of, is it leaning towards ANC coalitions or DA coalitions? Because they've often found themselves between the two. And from what I know is with Ngabazile Kwankwa, he seems like he's going to be leaning towards DA coalitions, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That if he does come in, we will see a more right-wing UDM, you know, because the Progressive Caucus tried to approach them. Not many people know that, but they did try to approach them. They refused. And that was actually a call from Ngabazile Kwankwa.
Yes, because originally they were in the lineup for the Progressive Caucus and then
Yeah,
into the
but I
government
mean,
of
those
national
75 positions are tempting. So you
and they
end
got
up-
one. And they got one.
exactly.
Okay, so we could finally see the exit of Bantu Olamiso, who has been on the show, and it's time for him to go. Let's talk about Build One South Africa.
Another sinking ship. Another, it was not a political party. It was just Musi Maimani's expensive hustle. Let's just be honest, Mike. I mean, Musi is now in a race. He's thinking to himself, my party has got 2 seats. The first mistake that Musi made, and if he's listening, I hope he hears me. Musi, you started your party at the wrong time. The party should have been started in 2021 local government elections because you already left the DA. But because politicians are so, fixated with egos, Musi and Herman could not agree to work under one another. One said, I'll start my own thing. This one said, to hell, I'll do mine in general elections. That's the first thing. But Musi realizes, I can't go to another election by myself. There's a tempting offer from what I'm hearing for Musi to dissolve his party into Action SA. Now, this is the first time you're hearing this on any platform for that matter, to actually kill Bosa and dissolve it into Action SA. And the agreement will be that Herman Mashaba will step aside and Musi will take the reins. Now, the conversation was there from 2021 already, but there was no agreement because Herman could not agree to Musi taking presidency, but now it seems like he will agree. So this is going to be detrimental to this whole consolidation pact of Rise Mzansi and Good, because Rise and Good, let's be honest, the real spaza shops of politics can't go to another election by themselves. They really need serious manpower, and I do think they will be eaten up by Action SA.
So Action SA is going to end up creating another bloc.
Yeah,
that sort of sits maybe closer to the ANC than to the DA.
Definitely, because all the guys in this new bloc, right? And now I'm saying things that have never been heard. When we approached Magashule Ghana, now I'm talking about my days still in Action SA, Magashule Ghana said to me, and I'm putting this on record, at the IEC in Midrand, he said, Kuhle, the only way for me to agree to merging with you guys is if you guys can leave the DA coalition in Tshwane. So, Mike, it didn't surprise me when I saw all of these, because this is a script, Mike. It's falling into place, Mike. Patricia de Lille will never work with the DA ever again. Musi will never. These are a bunch of people that come from the DA, are orphaned children that are trying to come together to, I don't know, start something. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll have to wait and see. But let's be honest, the left-wing caucus of communists have got about 30%. DA will start to reach maybe 25, going for 30, that whole right-wing. So I'm including every right-wing party will start to push towards 30%. ANC will find themselves in another 30%. What does that leave them with, these consolidation babies? With 10%. So how much of that 10% will they eat, considering there's still IFP and Patriotic Alliance?
Yeah, it's sad because the road would be clear for a DA that was more appealing to more people.
No,
to grow dramatically.
True.
And I think that's the space that Action SA and these parties are trying to grasp, is the fact that because the DA is so blind to the obvious in South Africa, they won't grow more than a couple of percent. Whereas they, the party that if they did have broader appeal, and yes, I'm talking about a black leader, it's not that difficult, right? In Africa, in case anybody hasn't worked this out, if you did have more broad appeal, that party would be up at 30% and be challenging the ANC for the majority party within the country.
Mike, advice for the DA and Helen Zille and the rest is focus on the working class. The working class are your key to growing in the next election, because they are forgotten.
Yeah. So while we're on that subject, let's talk about successors, because you've got two angles here on the succession story.
Yes, Mike. A very interesting story is, from what I'm hearing, whispers in the Western Cape Provincial Executive.
See, that's why you come here, to hear these whispers.
Western Cape Provincial Executive Committee of the DA is Alan Winde will not stay till 2029. He won't finish his term. Jordan Hill-Lewis will step up and become the next premier of the Western Cape, which is very interesting. So from what I'm hearing is Jordan wants to actually play the levels. He doesn't want to sort of jump all the way, you know. So that is interesting, number one. Silius Brink has also been whispered around here in the northern areas as a possible leader, you know, to challenge John Steenhuisen at their Congress in 2026. Now, Mike, let's be honest. John finds himself in a weak position at the moment, and it's not my opinion. It's his part. It's the party. It's got nothing to do with me. People in his party who have read the articles, they no longer favor him. They claim arrogance and all sorts, you know. And John as a leader, I've never really, you know, gotten to understand him as an individual, but he is a professional. I won't lie to you. I just think his office has been surrounded by so much controversy with the Roman Kabanak and this Big Daddy Liberty podcaster that also works there. You know, so much controversy that, you know, there's also the arrogance of not removing him. It has not fared well for John, unfortunately. I do think John might end up taking a backseat. I don't think he'll fade away completely. But for him to return as the DA leader, no. That won't happen. It will either be Jordan Hill-Lewis or Silius Brink. So expect a leader from either the North or from the Western Cape. And in Gauteng, Solim Simanga is also going to start to fade out of the politics of provincial. He might be like a Soli Malatsi, just be a federal chairperson or, you know, a deputy federal chairperson somewhere there.
Get one of those 75 positions.
Exactly, you know. So Solim Simanga might just go into that, you know, terrain, and Silius might end up being a provincial leader. But the key people to watch in the DA are these two, Silius Brink and Jordan Hill-Lewis. And in KwaZulu-Natal, obviously, Christopher Babas. But I don't know if he's strong enough to challenge Dean McPherson there. Yeah.
Siviwe Kharube?
Siviwe Kharube at the moment is unfortunately not a strong contender. I think, let's be honest, Mike, we live in a patriarch, you know, society, and no one really can foresee a woman taking over, you know, a political party. It's not my opinion. It's just, you know, literally, you're trying to think of the strongest member to contest with the ANC. It's like in the US, did the Democrats really think Kamala Harris was going to beat Trump? I feel like they gave it on a silver platter. So I think that's why the DA has learned lessons even from the US, that Siviwe is great. She's a great human being. I know her, amazing. But I do think you need a Jordan and a Silius Brink in this instance.
Now, big rumblings as this 2024 is behind us. We're into 2025, and suddenly all eyes on the local government election, but only half, because the rest of the eyes are on succession in 2027. The succession we've spoken about, the DA, we've spoken about a few parties. What's your information about the ANC succession?
Mike, I hope Rob is watching. Rob Hersov, I hope you do tune into State of the Nation. I hope you do. He mentioned something of two ladies that Ramaphosa wants them to succeed him, you know. I actually managed to find out who's the one, you know, and you'll be shocked, Mike. It's allegedly Marupeni Ramakgopa, the second DSG of the ANC. Apparently, she is a fangirl of Cyril Ramaphosa, someone who's been extremely close to Cyril. She's young. She is eloquent. She is, I think she won't increase support of the ANC. I don't want to lie to you. It won't work. It won't work outright. I mean, when I heard the two female story, I knew it was not going to work. You know, parties like the ANC, Mike, will not have a woman leader for as long as corruption still exists. I mean, and that is, till Jesus comes back. So, it's not going to work, firstly. I just think this, I don't know, Mike, it's really not going to work. I mean, she's close to Ramaphosa. She's someone that has been elevated by Ramaphosa, you know, to positions in the ministry and all sorts. But is she likable? No. By her own party members, they don't favor her. So no, nothing much will happen. And speaking of succession, Mike, South Africa, get ready. One of the predictions that we're talking about was, I think we need to get ready for a white president. As crazy as it sounds, Mike.
Goodness.
I mean, Mike, let's be honest. The ANC got deputy president and president in this GNU. If GNU exists 2029 and beyond, the ANC will never get president and deputy president again. Another party will get one of the two. And chances are it will be the DA or IFP. And if it's the DA, it could be a white person. So South Africa, we need to learn to remove the race cataracts from our eyes, because it's a reality. It's going to happen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're always going to get some really great insights on the political insider here on the State of the Nation. Kushle, this is really going to go viral. To everybody that joined us, we've got to give credit to Pace Car Rental that keep us on air. And I hope you enjoyed this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to State of the Nation. You get political inside information like this. Kushle, thank you so much. To everybody that watched us, it was great. We'll see you next week on the Political Insider. Go well.